Cyndi Brec is a debut author of the Therans Secret Beneath Scars, Book 1, and author of Sacred Secret and Sacred Lies short stories. She is a young adult urban fantasy romance author and Ohio native. Cyndi lives with her best friend, her husband, her two crazy fun-loving kids, and her embarrassingly energetic dogs who finds unending trouble. I experienced as a recreational therapy technician for the geriatric psych and mentally challenged love for travel and creative story building has given her many facets to draw from when world building. Cyndi never thought of herself as an author, more of a storyteller. Her love for history was part of the driving force in writing the series, but more so mythological stories that stretched across civilization and time. Secret hidden within those mythical tales cultivated an unending list of questions and inspired her to write. And on today's episode of Author Interview, it's my utmost pleasure and joy to have Cyndi on the show. How are you doing, Cyndi?
I'm actually doing really good. How about yourself, Peter?
I'm doing fine. It's lovely to have you on the show.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the invite.
Yeah. So, Cyndi, I would first love to say, congratulations on your upcoming books. And now I'd love to ask you, how do you feel knowing that you're becoming an author soon?
How do I feel about becoming an author soon? Well, like you said in my opening, I've always actually considered myself more of a storyteller.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited about sharing the information about this book. But I'm overjoyed to be in the position that I'm in, the opportunities to share the story world that I've cultivated and written
Mm.
about. And it's just exciting, being a storyteller there's just something beautiful about it, something very creative, and
Absolutely.
I love it.
Yeah, it's amazing too. We all have our first time becoming an author, and you feel so excited about it. So that's a great one. Now, could you tell us a bit about the making of Secret Beneath Scars, which is the first book in the Tyrant series? For readers who are yet to read the book, and of course, without giving much information away, could we have a sneak of what we would expect picking up Secret Beneath Scars?
Yeah, I'll give you a little bit. The Secrets Beneath Scars is very interesting. It's about a teen self-discovery, but not a typical teen. It's a story about an orphan girl who hunts for answers to the origins of her powers, but instead she stumbles across a sinister plot. And all of it takes place in a world soaked in archaeological mystery. So, don't want to share too many secrets and spoilers. Then I got to have people get the book.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Then you have the prequel to the short stories called Sacred Lies. Would you like to
Yes.
tell us a bit about the making of that as well?
Well, there's actually two short stories. One is the secrets, Scarred Secrets and Scarred Lies. Scarred Secrets is actually all like written from the first person point of view, like as if it's a journal entry.
Oh,
And all of that takes place prior to Callie, my main protagonist, actually entering into high school. In
oh,
her former years and some of the difficulties that she's going through with digesting and dealing with grieving process of her mom and dad. But it's an account from her point of view, and it's written, I written designed it in a way that it was like written in her writing, so I wanted the readers, young adults, to be able to engage with it. Scarred Lies is a little different because there's two short stories in there, and those short stories, each one of them, have a major impact and influence the
mm,
very first book, The Secrets Beneath Scars. But they help launch and help you give a taste of really what's going on in the Theran world, even though the main protagonist, Callie, knows nothing about the Theran world
oh.
at that time. She just
Yeah.
knows she's got power. She doesn't know that right there in her backyard, right where she lives, there's a world of archaeological history below ground.
That's amazing. And I think that's a cover behind you there by the wall, right?
Yeah,
Wall, right?
actually, yeah, yeah. I just had a little bit of time and I designed the scarred secrets and then scarred
Wow.
lies and then the taglines like a secret stab deeper than a blade. So
Wow.
because her whole life is riddled with mystery and secrets and stuff. So
That's amazing to know, actually. I love those design, and I think I would have to work on that with my books as well. Thanks for teaching me techniques.
well, we learn from each person. So yeah.
Thank you. Now, I'm also curious, if you experience any challenges in the process of writing your books. If there is any, could you share with us what challenge it is and how you ultimately overcame it?
Hmm. I had challenges when I initially started writing book one because one, I didn't know the craft of writing. I understood
Oh.
the three plot structure.
Mm,
But my thing is looking at the story world or reading other people's book because I'm an avid reader was
mm,
very easy. But to actually put pen to paper and I didn't use computers back then, but to put pen to paper, it was really hard to like figure things out. I actually wrote the book and had an author friend of mine look at it and she sent me back some corrections and said I would consider doing this and all this kind of stuff, and I took it to heart.
mm.
She was an inspiration to me, and
Wow.
I went from there. So but I would say probably for me, the biggest hurdle was dyslexia, and it's still
Oh.
prevalent for me because I mean that's not something you can just like get away. So, I mean, I make sure that like I do not write when I'm stressed out or I've got a busy day or something like that. I mean, usually I carve out between Monday and Friday, I'll carve out a couple
Mm.
hours each day to write. But if I'm stressed out or I've got something going on that's very impacting, I'll do social media or something like that because otherwise I transpose letters and the end product does not look well.
Yeah, that's
So
true, actually. I love that.
yeah,
Even sometimes when I'm stressed out, I would say, "Oh no, I'm not gonna read now because whatever I read, I won't understand it because I'm already stressed out. It's better to do
yeah,
something less easy. Maybe watch a movie or do social
yeah,
media like you suggest."
yeah. In social media, you could engage with some people that are inspirational and stuff like that.
Absolutely. You can even get some more, you can even get a readership, stuff like that. So there's a lot of things to do on social media that can be very advantage to us as a
Oh yeah,
writer. Now,
oh yeah.
following on from the previous series, and without giving much information away, could you tell us about what inspired the making of Sacred Secrets?
There's a combination of things that inspired me. It's kind of weird in some ways,
Oh,
but not only it's because of reading, but I kind of think of myself as a legend sleuth. I like to dive into different legends, facts, or I should say factions, but legends and myths, and create in my mind stories about them. But
mm,
part of the other reason, the other aspect that inspired me was we actually, the setting where I built the story world from, we used
mm,
to own it. We used to be an old water mill. Well, it still is. And so everything took place on the property that we owned and stuff like that, in the
oh,
water mill, all that kind of stuff. And so, with the history of having had owned that for over 20 years, and I've always had a very well developed mind that I could close my eyes or I could go to sleep and I could actually like choreograph like images in my head and things would
mm,
just come naturally. It
yeah,
was putting them on paper that didn't come as easy for me. But
wow,
But no, I would say a lot of history, legend sleuthing, and the story world setting. And then just my character who just would not stop talking to me. So,
Yeah, that's amazing to know. That's really amazing to know. Now, apart from Secret Beneath Scars, Sacred Lies, and Sacred Secret, do you have any other works you've authored or maybe currently working on?
actually, I finished book 2, and I'm actually on the last chapter, the aftermath chapter, in book 3. So
Wow.
I have a 3-book series with 2 magnets for
Wow.
prequels, and I will be totally done. But it's been a 10-year endeavor,
Wow.
and it's been a lot of research to make sure, because I get into Plato, I get into Atlantis. I
Wow.
mean, I like to, like I said, I like history. I love history. I think history is so rich and so important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I too am a great fan of history. I love history
Mhm.
so much because it helps us pass on information from one generation to another and be
Oh yeah.
informed of what is the history or the story of of a particular place at a particular given year or time, stuff like that. And it also helps us improve our knowledge and history of the
Oh
world.
yeah.
So that's a great thing to know.
Mhm.
Now, sometimes I've been so fascinated and, surprised and shocked on how authors could just sit down and come up with an ideas to bring words together in a way that it reads interestingly and amazingly. Sometimes I'll be like, how did you guys get the inspiration to write in these books? Because it's just so wholesome. Now, I'd love to ask you too, how do you get the inspiration to write your books? Now, it's
Callie's,
strange, right?
well, yeah,
The
it is.
inspiration can be very funny. You'd be
Well,
like,
yeah, because somebody else looking in at any author or any storyteller that writes, they're like probably thinking, she does what? Or he does what?
mm,
But I identify, like my daughter's been an inspiration for me. As she was growing up, I kind of got to see some things, and then I poured into my character Callie some qualities of that. So it's kind of a makeshift of certain things there. And yeah, but again, I go back to I can't stop writing about Callie's life because it's so interesting. Every time I back her into a corner where she doesn't know
mm,
how to get out of a situation, I love that challenge. It inspires me to like look for the impossible way, the intriguing way to get out
mm,
of a situation, the not normal way. And
oh,
because I think it entices a reader to want to stay more engaged with a story when everything is not predictable,
yeah,
and so I think one of the aspects of the inspiration that's kept me going is Callie and brainstorming and just overall her story unfolding and the mystery of finding something around every corner and trying to get
yeah,
her out of situations. So,
absolutely. I've been so fascinated and so sometimes it surprised me how authors come and bring these words together, bring this together, collide it together, and make a fantastic books out of it. I'm like, how did you guys do it? Are you a witch? Like, I don't get it. How did you get all the I made a post recently about this. How did you get all the inspiration to? Because I was reading a book and it really intrigued me. I was like, how did they even write all these amazing books? Like,
yeah.
it can be
Oh, yeah.
very surprising.
Oh, yeah. Well, especially when you try to ground a lot of your story world in science.
Mm,
I mean, yeah, my characters have powers and innate powers, but I've tried to consider like the atmosphere that they're in, the powers that they have and the powers that they're competing against,
Oh,
you know,
wow.
whether it's indirect or direct power, or what, and then try to create something that is totally different
Mm.
than that you would find on other pages, and to substantiate it with as much science as you can. And believe it or not, I'm not a science person. I mean, I love science because I think it's
Wow.
important, but I brainstorm with a couple of my writing buddies. I just actually brainstormed with one of my female writing friends. She's fantastic. And she was like, said, well, what about this? And I'm like, oh, I gotta go with that. So that's what I'm like working on. So, but my husband's been a big support on that science
Mm.
end too.
Wow,
So
that's amazing.
oh yeah. So
Yeah, that's really amazing. I love your answers to this question. Now, is there anything that you love to share with the viewers about your books that we did not mention in this interview, and yet love the viewers to know?
I hope that, well, I can't say enough about history. I think there's a richness in history that is so deep. I think history bridges the past with the present. And
Absolutely.
and I mean, whether you're looking at archaeological sites or
Mm.
anything like that, I think, how do you say, history's a map. And all my research of cultivating the Theran world and then into the Atlantean world, which are two different governmental systems, I studied the collapse of
Wow.
economics and civilizations and stuff like that. And it's
Mm.
like you realize the significance of history, but at the same time, that's what my all three of my books correlate one message.
Wow.
If we don't, if we forget our past, we are doomed to repeat it. And so my
Absolutely.
character, yeah, my character Callie, she is going through learning about herself, discovering who she is, and at the same time, events that are unfolding, she is trying to get ahead of them and stop them before something else happens. And it's all pieces of uh, old tomes or books that lead her in the direction. It's artifacts that she has to hunt down at talesmen's.
Mm.
It's just, how do you say, all of those are pieces, and without those pieces, my fictitious world for Callie wouldn't have been cultivated, would not have come into fruition. So no, that's, I'm a history buff. I love to write, and I love my story world, Callie. And my agent Jonas is pitching it right now, so it's not out on the market. But I am so grateful for this opportunity to share it with your followers.
Yeah, thank you. That's amazing. And I love the fact that you mentioned that you're a great history lover. You know, history helps us know about the past, and the past help prevent future mistakes. Because, you know, if you don't know history and you don't know things that have happened in the past, you might go ahead making mistake that we once
Yes.
made in the past. Just like we've seen leaders who has wrote in certain, time zone or year, but like, oh, this is what they did those time. Don't vote for him this time around if he's coming into power. You know, history helps us to prevent mistakes on the future.
Mhm.
So it's very important, very
Oh,
necessary.
yeah, yeah. But yep, history is most definitely important. So I hope people, when they get the opportunity to read my book stories, will find the richness in a fictitious story world that is backed with legends that have been twisted,
Wow.
that have been brought to a new richness and a different perspective in a different way. So,
Wow.
so, but yep, that's a little bit about my story.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thanks for sharing with us. Now, Cindy, as a published author, what sort of advice do you have for other writers who are still struggling with publishing or writing, or let's say finishing a book? What do you advise people in this category?
I would have to say, well, first of all, I'm not published yet, but my agent's
Yeah,
gonna get it out there. We're
yeah.
looking for a publisher. But actually, I would say to start the manuscript, do not stop and keep your darlings, keep those favorite scenes that you don't feel that that right now fit in the story world, because they could be significant for a burning idea at a later time. Not everything is going to fit right away. But my thing is, when you've got that first manuscript done, then you go back and you look at it, you could layer it. And when you layer it, it even becomes richer. And for every beta reader it goes through, every perspective it goes through, take into account the constructive criticism, because my book series would not be where it's at without the strong beta readers in the writing group that I belong to. And the people have touched it, read it, and my agent, because they've only added to it to help layer it, to make it that much more deeper and much more impacting. I want my readers to escape into a reality that is rich with intrigue and rich with uniqueness, but at the same time grounded in something that has a substance, that if they walk away, they're like, wow.
Of your answers to that question, and the fact that if you have a particular scene that you think does not fit well currently, don't delete it, just keep it. That actually applies to me, because I'm currently writing a novel too, and I feel like all these things, I'm going to remove them. I'm just going to delete them and start all over again. But I think I have to go with your advice. I will just maybe keep them somewhere and start whatever I'm going to start now freshly. And maybe later on I can go back to it, and it can even be an idea, for a new plot. That's a very good advice. I love it. Thank you for mentioning it.
I'll tell you, you take the time to write it. Why put it anywhere but in a folder that you could store it, and if you run across it again, it might inspire an idea or something like that. I mean, it's important to keep those things. Time is precious. So your writing time could.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your advice, and I hope that viewers, including myself, would love to utilize it. Now, I know, Cyndi, that you're not yet published, but if eventually you get published, I'm going to have to attach a link in the description part of this interview, where interested viewers can get a copy of your books directly on Amazon. Just so for that, I'd love to ask, what platform do you think your books will be available on eventually when you get published?
Well, I don't know. Well, I could definitely tell you I'm on Facebook, but then I have a website, cyndibrec.com.
Yeah.
And the end of October, I actually have a newsletter scheduled to go out. And then I'm going to offer that journal, Scarred Secrets, as one of the magnets if they sign up. So they can get a taste of who Callie is and stuff like that. And Callie's an interesting character. She really is. In a world that's riddled with deceit, deception, and intrigue and mystery, she's trying to still hold true to the core values of being a good person. So, and there's lots of challenges when you try to do that. And actually you stumble through a lot more, I think, dangerous territory because you're trying to be right. So, but yeah, but they can look on my website, Cyndi Brec. I also, some of the links, I have Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I'm also on Instagram, and just recently, TikTok.
Oh, beautiful. That's amazing. Yeah. And thanks for mentioning that. I would have to check your newsletter later and subscribe to it. Then I left a link in the description part of this interview. I know not currently yet, but then eventually, as Cyndi got his book out there, I'm going to put a link in the description part and also leave a link to our social media platform where you can reach out to her, connect, and as well get a copy when it's eventually published. So thank you so much, Cyndi Brec, for accepting the invitation to be featured on P English Literature. It's awesome having this conversation with you. I'm excited.
Thank you very much. I look forward to actually seeing you again. So when things are done. So
yeah. Thank you so much. That's amazing.